In this video, more birds for the year list. Lifers, endangered birds, mistaken identity, ponies, a wizard. Never a dull moment. Despite having a horrendous virus, we headed down south towards Wiltshire. Hey folks, we are full of cold.
Yeah, we're all ill.
And we are in Wiltshire, not far from Stonehenge. We've come down here to try and pick out some new birds for our year list we've not seen. I'm not going to mention any names yet, but hopefully we'll find a good few. Stick with us. Let's see what we find tomorrow.
We've also got a stowaway.
Oh, we've got a stowaway.
Hiya.
She's holding the light, you probably can't see her.
I'm tired.
But we'll see her tomorrow. She's very tired because it's nearly midnight. I woke up in the morning to realise I'd parked right next to our helicopter landing area, which was a touch worrying. This area was also very popular with dog walkers. The parking area was full. Despite the amount of dogs that were being walked, there were still a few birds present, mostly crows and a group of pied wagtail that were jumping around in the cut grass. Once the girls were up, we headed towards Salisbury Plain. I'd heard some of the byways that run onto the common are a little bit rough, but it was worse than I thought. Especially when you're in a long wheelbase tall transit van. Eventually, after some very careful manoeuvring and passing these red-legged partridge, we finally made it up onto Salisbury Plain. The roads weren't quite as bad, but they were still pretty rough, so I had to take it carefully. Morning folks.
Morning.
We're on Salisbury Plain. It's taken some battering on the van to get it up here. So the roads were sketchy. The roads were definitely a bit sketchy. But we're here and we're looking around to see what we can find. We've seen a yellowhammer already, which is nice. I kind of would like to find a corn bunting if possible.
That'd be nice.
And yeah, maybe some other stuff. Whee! Driving a bit further down the road, being careful as this is a military firing range, we got a sight of one of the birds that we were looking for, the corn bunting. This footage was taken through the windscreen of the van, so not perfect, but the bird was really close and gave us a great view. Unfortunately, it flew off before I was able to get any better footage, so we continued up the road. And before long, Kaylee spotted a very large bird flying over. This bird appeared to land in a field not too far away, so we parked the van, grabbed Kaylee's scope and started scanning the area. It didn't take me long to pick out a shape in the distance. It was a great bustard, and this individual was a female. This species were once native to the UK but were driven to extinction, and the last one was shot in 1832. But since the late 1990s, some have been reintroduced in the aim to getting a self-sustaining population. After watching this lovely female bird for a while, she was joined by another one, and this time a male. He landed a little bit further back from the female, but even through the heat haze, you can see the flamboyant array of feathers he uses for his mating display. He walked around the female for a while, displaying for a bit and showing off. What an amazing thing to see. Not only one, but two of these birds. There are now about 100 of this species now on Salisbury Plain. Despite this species is endangered on a world scale. So hopefully projects like this one will help to bring this bird back from the brink. Hey folks, we've not only just got one lifer in the shape of a corn bunting for Kaylee.
We got two.
We got two, which is a lifer for all of us. We saw two great bustard. We had a female that flew over the van, so we stopped and tried to find it in the field, and we found it. And then a male flew in to accompany it.
It was showing off.
And it was showing off, yeah. It's a bit of a distance with the heat haze for the footage, but amazing nevertheless. Absolutely super. So that's another two birds for the year list in one morning so far. Let's carry on, see what else we can find. What an amazing place. After driving a bit further, we decided to give the van a break and move on to smoother, more even roads, and our next destination. After our success with the bustard and the corn bunting, we've headed down south a bit to Blashford Lakes. It's a little reserve, we've never been, so we thought we'd have a mooch round to see if we can find anything else. We've left Liv in the van because she's full of cold. We are as well, but
We're trying to power through.
we're trying to power through. Eventually we were headed towards the New Forest, but Blashford Lakes was directly en route, so well worth a look. As Olivia wasn't well, we left her in the van and we took a look at the first hide. Looking out over the reasonably large piece of water, there was the obvious black-headed gulls making an awful lot of noise. One thing I didn't expect here was to see so many Egyptian geese in one place. There were dozens of this introduced species here, some on the bank and some in the water. I did notice they have a breeding colony of common tern here. This individual happily sat on a post preening. Behind the common tern I did notice something on the bank. If you notice on the right hand side of this footage, there's a little ringed plover, possibly sat on a nest. This species is a favourite of Kaylee's, so she was super happy to see it. We got chatting to a warden here who mentioned there are kingfishers on site, another bird we still need footage of for our year list. We were told we were unlikely to see them at this time of the year, but regardless, we wandered off to the hide where they were last sighted. En route to the hide we bumped into a couple who had seen the kingfisher recently. That's encouraging. We sat down and settled in, waiting for the kingfisher to show up on the tree it was last seen. Whilst waiting, we looked over this large pool to see what other birds were present. There were plenty of ducks, mainly mallards, with some of the males molting into eclipse plumage, which eventually will make them look almost indistinguishable from the females. Further out there were some platforms where the common terns and the black-headed gulls were nesting, and in some of the trees there were some noisy and large cormorant nests. Before long, Kaylee got a sight of the kingfisher. It came into the tree where the other birder had seen it, and I got the camera on it and started recording, but then disaster happened. Hey folks, we've just
slowly dying inside.
Yeah, we've just had a view of the bird that we were hoping to see here, which is the kingfisher. So I had the kingfisher on the camera, taking the video footage, and the camera battery died, and the footage hasn't saved.
No.
So I'm going to stick around and really hope that it shows back up again. It's got a big bit of water and apparently it does circuits, so let's just hope it does very speedy circuits. Yeah, we'll stick around for a bit and fingers crossed it'll come back. We sat around a little frustrated, hoping for the kingfisher to return, and briefly it did, but not long enough for me to get the camera on it. Time passed as we waited for the kingfisher to make another appearance, watching some of the other amazing birds like this family of great crested grebes in the distance. Eventually Kaylee went back to the van to check on Olivia, leaving me alone. Hey folks, Kaylee's gone back to the van to check on Liv and to grab a sandwich, and we've been waiting an awful long time. This kingfisher flew back briefly, but still unfortunately I wasn't quick enough with the camera, so I'm going to give it another 10 minutes, and if I have to leave it, it's going to be awfully frustrating, but we're going to have to save that one for another time. After giving it probably a little too much time and seeing the kingfisher fly past again, I called it a day, and we headed down towards the New Forest. This is an area since I've been birding I haven't really explored very much, so I was quite eager to see what was there. We parked up at a place called Pig Bush Enclosure and headed out through the woods onto the moorland. It was late in the afternoon and pretty warm, and the bird sound was almost non-existent, which was very unusual. Other than a few brief glances of some small birds and the buzzard that was circling overhead, it was very quiet. We carried on exploring, with Kaylee and Olivia trying to find the biggest walking stick they could, and me only finding a few small birds like a goldfinch that was sat in a bush and a few meadow pipit that were trying to catch food. I did get a brief glimpse of a Dartford warbler, which was great, but the only obvious thing in sight was heathland and ponies. Hey folks, we've come for a bit of a walk in the New Forest. I can't remember the name of the place. I'll put it up on the screen in a minute. It's really quiet. It's about 6 o'clock at night. We've had a brief view of a Dartford warbler, which was quite cool. Fortunately, couldn't get it in the camera. Everything else is kind of pretty regular moorland stuff, really. A couple of buzzards. Had a few glances of stonechat, meadow pipit, that kind of thing. Yeah, that's lots of horses, ponies. Other than that, not much. Unfortunately, Olivia wasn't feeling very well, so we dropped her off at the van, passing this wonderful female stag beetle on the way. Then we decided to give it another chance, heading into the forested area. Hey, we've decided to put Liv in the van, and we've gone back out into the field. And we believe we may have just seen another bird for our year list, which we were after last video, called the willow tit. There's been one around in bushes. I think it's a willow tit. I've got a video of it. I'm going to try and confirm it when we get home.
We've just spent the last half an hour trying to confirm.
Yeah, I bet. It fits the description. It's got slightly paler wings. It's a bit bigger.
It's kind of
so I think it's a willow tit. But if so, that would be another bird for the year list.
and a nice little stumble across.
Yes. And if it's not, then shame.
No, never mind.
This little bird, unfortunately, turned out to be a marsh tit. Not the willow tit we were after, but still a wonderful bird anyway. The marsh tit and the willow tit are very similar in appearance, with some just slight differences. The main way to pick these two species apart is the song, which is very, very different. I'm not sure if it was because it was getting later, or that we'd moved the area we were looking, but there appeared to be a little bit more bird activity. Seeing in the trees the marsh tit, some long-tailed tits and blue tits as well. After watching all the birds in the trees for a while, we grabbed Olivia and decided to go for a last walk before it went dark. We took quite a long walk across the heathland, bumping into some ponies that were crossing a bridge on the way. We stood back to let them cross. One of them left us with a smelly little present, which, childishly, was pretty hilarious. Eventually, as it was getting dark, we headed back towards the van. And not far from where we parked the van, we noticed some other birders with binoculars and scopes. Turns out, this place is good for nightjars as well. And as it got darker and darker, we started hearing them. They make a very distinctive chirring noise. Try to pick it out in this little video. And just before we were about to give up, a couple of them started to show, gracefully flying up in the air like oversized moths. These nocturnal birds pick up insects on the wing and are amazing to see. What a super bird to end such a wonderful day. Hey folks, it's about 20 past 10. We've remained in the New Forest and we decided to give it another chance. We found the willow tit. I saw it wasn't a willow tit, it was a marsh tit, which is a shame. Never mind. But we have just been out wandering with the New Forest ponies, which was quite lovely. Except for the one that decided to fart at me. And there's some good footage of that. And we've just had lovely views of some nightjars. And Liv spotted one, which was excellent. It's a nice way to end the day. We're going to head back into Wiltshire and have a mooch round tomorrow, possibly have a look at Stonehenge before we go home.
Should be lovely.
See you in the morning. And although we thought that was it, we were going to just drive to our parking spot and go to sleep, our evening wasn't over yet. On the New Forest roads, you need to be super careful for ponies, like this one that ran out in front of the van. Luckily, I was going slow enough not to cause any harm, but later on in the journey, something did happen. Hey folks, it's nearly 1 in the morning. We've had a tyre blowout on our rear driver's side tyre. We are waiting for some recovery, so yes, it's going to be a late night for us. After waiting a while for someone to come out to the van with a tyre and change it, it was about 2:30 in the morning, and definitely time for a sleep. We even had a lie-in the following morning. It's Sunday morning. We've had a bit of a lie-in. It's about 9:30, which is unusually late for us. We didn't get parked up until well after 2 because we had to have a 24-hour tyre guy come out and fit a tyre in the car. Anyway, we've got it sorted. We're back on the road. We're just going to have a quick nip to Stonehenge before we go home, so join us for that. Before heading to Stonehenge, I had a wander down the path where we'd parked and was pleasantly surprised by the quantity of corn bunting here. This species is far from common in North Wales, so I was really pleased to see an area where they are apparently thriving. As I was about to get in the van, I nearly stood on this very amorous ladybird and his partner, who didn't look quite as happy about the situation. It was only a couple of minutes drive around the corner to a byway that leads to Stonehenge. It's a reasonable walk through some farmland up the byway to where you can view Stonehenge, a World Heritage Site. En route, I got wonderful views, albeit from behind, of this female kestrel that was hunting over one of the farmer's fields. Last time we were here there was a lot of camper vans on this byway, but this time there really weren't any. And as we got in view of Stonehenge, we got talking to a very polite gentleman with a tent who tried to explain why. Hey folks, we're at Stonehenge and I've just bumped into the Wizard of Tottenham. He's a druid here. There he is, behind me somewhere. I hope you can see him. There he is.
Welcome to Stonehenge, welcome to the Drove.
There you go.
This is a Drove, it's a byway.
Yeah.
And it's the only way really to see Stonehenge for free. Right, so I'm here saying that it should be open for religious reasons, like every other religion, where I'm a druid. And the most important, one of the most important parts about us doing our celebrations is the gathering and the music and all that.
What an amazing character to meet. As we got up to Stonehenge, it was very, very busy. There were tourist buses in and out with thousands of people walking around the stones. We were on the other side of the fence as we hadn't paid, but we still had great views. We stood around for a short time to take it all in, but very soon it was time to head off as we had to get home. So we headed back down the path towards the van, spotting in the sky above us this wonderful red kite that was circling. And as we got back to the van we were greeted by another bird. Coincidentally this was the first bird on the video and now will be the last, the carrion crow. Hey folks, we've just had a mooch to Stonehenge, meeting an interesting gentleman on the way, the Wizard of Tottenham.
It was good.
It was excellent. We're heading home now. It's been an interesting weekend, quite mixed really. We got the Great Bustard and Corn Bunting, which were both a lifer for Kaylee, and the Bustard was a lifer for me, which was excellent. We went to a couple of other cool places as well. The New Forest was really fun. And then we got a really bad puncture.
And we got 2 more people at the top.
Yeah, and I'm not very well and Liv's not very well. So anyway, we're heading home. Thanks so much for watching. Please like,
Please subscribe.
and please press the notification bell. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye bye.